Why did you make circles?
Well, actually, we lived in Australia from 1958 to 66, which was 8.5 years. And me always being interested in outer space and UFOs and things, I saw an article in the Australian newspaper one day about some circles in some reed beds or grass in Tully in Queensland. And after reading it, of course, I forgot all about it. But when I returned home in 66, I met David Chorley, and he was also an artist, so we had a common interest there. And for the next few years, we used to go out on our Friday evenings to have a drink in the pub and talk about paintings. And one day when we were walking on Cheesefoot Head near Winchester, one summer evening, in the midst of the cornfields, we sat down there and trying to get a bit of inspiration probably for some paintings. And I suddenly remembered this article that I read while in Australia. And I told him about it, and I said, it'd be quite a good bit of fun if we could devise some way of making a circular mark in the cornfields here and sort of arouse a bit of interest. People would think that a UFO had landed during the night when they discovered it the next morning. So after returning home to my workshop, I sort of thought quite a bit the next day as to what we could use to make this circle. So we started off by using my big heavy security bar that was on my workshop door. And our first few circles were made on our hands and knees with this security bar. We were kneeling down side by side, but my goodness, it was certainly hard work. But it was quite good fun because you were down below the height of the corn, and if a car was coming down the road and the headlights were surging towards you, we used to just to say, down we go, and just wait for it to pass. And but for the first 2 years, our circles were not seen at all, except I suppose by the driver of the combine harvester, because we were doing them in fields that the public couldn't see them from the road. The ideal place, of course, would have been the punch bowl at Cheesefoot Head. But at that time, there were sheep in there, and I don't think it had ever been ploughed for crops. Until about the third year, my wife and I drove up past there one Sunday afternoon, and they were ploughing the punch bowl. And I thought to myself, I must go back to Southampton to find Dave Chorley and tell him that the ideal spot for doing a circle was now under crops. So we patiently waited until the spring to see the first corn arrive, and we knew that this would be the ideal spot to do our circles. And our first circle in the punch bowl, it was on the news the next evening, which pleased us quite a lot. And of course the other place which was ideal for the public to view them was the White Horse at Westbury and Clay Hill, which we did quite a few there as well. It was all a bit of fun, really, yes. And being circular, and UFOs were circular, we just wanted people to imagine, just to believe the next morning that, my God, something's landed here during the night, and the fact that it was circular, they immediately would think that it was a UFO, because flying saucers were circular, you see. It was no good doing square or triangle or anything like that, because they wouldn't cotton on to anything from outer space. And as I say, once the news broke, it gave us quite a fillip, you see, and to carry on. Because Dave Chorley said to me one day, he says, I've had enough of this. He said, I'm not going to keep on doing this. He said, every week, he says, we're getting nowhere with this, we're getting no publicity. I said, you just hang on a minute. I said, especially when the punch bowl's ploughed, now that we can get down in there. And of course, lo and behold, it was on the television news the next night, and the news was rapidly spreading around that something was making these circular marks in the cornfields. And of course, you know the story from then on. It just grew and grew. And of course, the more publicity we got with the media and newspapers and things, it egged us on even more. So the circles continued as circles for quite a while. But Dr. Terence Meaden, who is a very clever man as far as weather is concerned, he really got us, because he was saying it was wind vortices, you see, and that we didn't like that. So we had to change from circles into something else.
No.
If you want a cup of tea and a bit of cake, you say so, you break off. Well, we were so secretive about all this, and we realised when we started this that no one must know what we were doing, and otherwise it was going to spoil everything completely. And then we said to each other, well, what about our wives? And I said, well, the fact that we go out every Friday evening, they won't be any the wiser, because that was our usual thing, is to go out Friday evenings for a pint of beer. And but it was 7 years before my wife really found out.
Yes, I know.
I had a good laugh at some of the things that they said. I mean, for instance, if you see people laying on their backs in a circle, joining hands and doing a dance around, to me that was incredibly funny when I first heard of it. But after a while, I got to a different way of thinking. And I thought to myself, well, if this is what they want to make of it, it's entirely up to them. I can't understand why it's got so big, but I can see now that it's more or less uncontrollable, because these people are going to do exactly what they want, and if they get pleasure from it, okay.
By phone calls or letters?
Well, we were very surprised that we did receive 2 letters from a group called the Black Watch, and said that we had to stop making circles in cornfields, and it did worry us quite a bit, because the way you've got to look at this is that if anything happened to us in any form, then the suspicions would then go to the people that sent these letters. Of course, I'm a wildlife sound recordist and have been for about 15 to 20 years now, and I'm out most nights recording the sounds of deer and mammals and birds, all this sort of thing. And when I went to the meeting at the Guildhall in Wiltshire one evening, which was the subject of Cropcircles, they brought up this business about the grasshopper warbler, the sound that they'd heard up on Cheesefoot Head near Winchester, and I knew immediately what this was, because I'd already recorded this bird several years before, and this bird also sings at night. And when it came to question time after the meeting, I walked up to the stage, and I spoke to Busty Taylor, who happened to be there, and the other people as well, and I said, the noise that you heard that night was a grasshopper warbler, because I'm a sound recordist and I knew what it was. And they did everything but almost threw me out of the Guildhall. But of course, there again, you see, I think the more you can add to this phenomenon, the more interest you're going to get worldwide from audiences. You can say that you've got damage to your lenses of your cameras, and you've got I mean, if you get away from the circle business a minute, but people that have their films developed every week of the year, they have marks and things on their film, which is more or less can't be explained. But the fact that these people